Hi everyone, welcome back. This is the sewing version of my previous tutorial. If this looks like something you're interested in, keep watching and let's get started. If you haven't seen the cutting video, check it out first before you join us on this video to understand better. The link is in the description. So these are my pieces and I'll be adding stay to my front pieces and wadding as well. If you do not know how to pad a princess dart bustier, I have a detailed video on how to perfectly pad a princess dart bustier. I'll leave the link in the description and I'll also put it somewhere on the screen so you can go watch that. So after adding my stay and wadding, this is how it looks. These are my lining pieces. I cut exactly what I have on the main piece, and then this is the back piece. I only added stay to the neck area of the back piece, and these are my lining pieces for the back as well. I cut two pieces, exactly what I have on the main piece. So the next thing I'm going to do is to join my front pieces, and I'll just pick one side front, sew it from the down part all the way till I get to the underbust area. I'll leave my needle inside and then lift my footer and then turn it and then sew all the way to this point. And I'll repeat the same step on the other side as well and on my lining pieces too. This is how it looks after joining the front pieces. As you can see, this is how the inner part looks. The next thing I'm going to do is to notch on the underbust point. Just notch on the underbust point on both sides, and then I'm going to be ironing this. Okay, I'm going to press this open, press open my seam, and also on the lining piece as well I'll repeat the same step and press open my seam. I'll be using my tailor's hammer to do this. Okay, I'll just place it under and then I'm going to be using it to press open the curved areas of this princess dart bustier, and then I'll also be opening the same on this flat part as well. Okay, just place it on the pressing table and then just press open this part. So I am going to do that and then I'll come show you guys how it looks. This is how it looks after ironing. You can see that our princess dart bustier is already looking pretty. And then like I said, I ironed the lining piece as well, and this is how it looks. And guys, at this point I realized that I joined the lining pieces the wrong way. It's supposed to be like this, right sides facing each other, but I joined it the wrong way. So if you are doing yours, please take note of this. So I'm going to be doing this again. So I went ahead to lose it and then I did it again, and then it is now perfect. This is how it looks. And then we are going to be joining on the neckline of this piece all the way from the top by half of an inch. So I get to this point here and then all the way back to the top. And then after joining, this is how it looks. I'll just go ahead to notch it. So when you're notching, you have to be careful, okay, not to notch past the seam line. Okay, do not notch past your seam line, just notch very close to it. And then after notching, this is how it looks. I'll just go ahead to press this out, and then after pressing it, I'll come show you guys how it looks. So guys, this is how it looks after pressing. As you can see here, everything is now flat. I'll go ahead to also join this piece on the sides by half of an inch on both sides, and I'll also press it, okay, so that it looks very neat. Make sure that you press every step of the way, okay, when you're making yours, so it looks good. So I'll just press the sides, and then we are going to be working on the back. This is how it looks after pressing. So for the back piece, we are just going to be joining the neckline of the back first. From the top, we are going to be joining by half of an inch all the way, and we are going to be repeating the same for the other back piece as well. Join main piece to lining on the top by half of an inch. So we are going to be joining the sides as well, so just take note of that. So for this, I'll also go ahead to join half of an inch on the top part, on the zipper allowance line half of an inch, and then on the side as well half of an inch, and then I'll come show you guys. So guys, this is how it looks after joining. I'll just go ahead to cut this part here, and then I'll go ahead to notch on the neckline area, and I'll repeat the same on the two back pieces. Okay, if you are new to this channel and you have not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Please do well to hit on the subscribe button and also give this video a thumbs up if you find it helpful. And if you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for stopping by. I love you guys. So guys, after that, the next thing I'm going to do now is to turn this over, okay, and then you can see how it looks. I went ahead to also give it a good press, and then this is how it looks. So now we are going to be marking the points where our dart is going to be. I'll just come down by 1 inch from the armhole line, and then I'm going to be connecting with a straight line, and then I had already notched my dart point from my pattern paper. So I'll just go ahead now to mark it and then connect it all the way to the 1 inch I came down by. Okay, and then I'm going to sew by half of an inch all the way till I get to that point, and then I'll repeat the same on the other side, and this is how it looks. So I've gone ahead to take my darts. Next thing I'm going to do now is to join the shoulders of the front and the back together, and this part is a little bit tricky, but just watch carefully to see how I did mine. So you just go ahead to sew this way and then flip the lining over to the other side and then sew all the way, so the seam is going to be hidden inside and not outside. So I will go ahead and do it and show you guys how it looks. So if you're having difficulties in doing yours, go ahead to join 3 pieces first before you turn the lining and then sew on it. Okay, so I went ahead to sew the 3 pieces of mine first, join them together before I flipped one lining and then used it to cover it up and then sew all the way. So after doing that on the both neck, this is how it looks. When you do yours, please do well to notch on these corners. Okay, make sure you notch on it so that it relaxes on the other part, and then this is how it looks. The next thing we are going to be doing now is to trim the excess on the armhole, trim it on both sides. For the sleeves, I'll be dropping a detailed tutorial on how to cut and sew the sleeves, and I'll leave the video link in the description so you can check it out. So this is our sleeve, and then we are going to be attaching it to this piece, and then I went ahead to close up my zipper allowance with a loose stitch, and then this is the sleeve. I'll go ahead to fix it, and then I'm going to be pleating the excess on the top part of the shoulder, and then I'll come show you guys. So guys, this is how it looks after sewing the sleeves. Next thing I'm going to do is to measure the bust area and the waist area of the back, bust area and waist area of front, and then I'm going to be shaping this dress. So this is how I usually shape my outfit. I'll just go ahead to measure what I have, and then I'll add it together and then subtract the actual measurement from it, and then whatever I get, I'll be dividing it by 4 to shape my outfit. So I'll just go ahead to shape. This is how it looks after shaping. The next thing I'm going to do now is to work on the lower part, but I'll go ahead to lose the zipper allowance. Okay, I just held that so that I'll get the actual measurement I want to shape this with. So I've gone ahead to lose it, and I pressed open the zipper allowance before I loosed it, so I'll know where my zip is going to pass through. So this is the lower part. I'm going to be adding it to the top part, but before I do that, I'll go ahead and join the back and the front together. So I'll first attach the pockets. Remember, we came down by 3 inches and made a knot, so we are going to be starting from that point all the way to the second notch that we made, and we are going to be repeating the same for all the sides. Okay, 2 for the front and then 2 for the back, and then after that we are going to be shaping this. Okay, so on the waist area, you're going to be using the waist measurement that you use for the top part to shape it. So we are going to be joining the front and the back together. So I'm joining this before I attach it to the top part of my piece, and that's because I want my lining to be separate. As the video goes on, you understand what I'm talking about. So this is how I'm going to be joining it all the way down, and then I'll join on the other side as well, right sides facing each other, so all the way on the pockets, and then until I get to the end, and then after that I'll now go ahead to join it on my top part. So this is how it looks after attaching the pockets and then joining the sides of the lower part, as you can see. So this is our pocket, and my hand can easily pass through the pockets, as you can see here. So I'll just go ahead now to join this to the top part. I will be joining it by half of an inch all the way, and I'm going to make sure that the side seam for both the lower part and the top part matches each other. Okay, so when you are doing yours, make sure that the side seam on both the top part and the lower part matches. So after joining it, this is how it looks. As you can see, the next thing I'm going to do now is to hem the down part. I'll be doing this by 1/2 inch. Okay, I'll bend 1/2 inch inwards and then 1/2 inch again, and then I'm going to be sewing this all the way till I get to the end. And then after doing that, this is how it looks. As you can see, the next thing I'm going to do now is to measure what I have on this waist part here, and I'm going to be cutting a lining for it. So for our lining, we are going to be cutting it as a 180-degree flare. I am going to be measuring what I have here twice to be sure, and then I'll go ahead to measure the length of this lower part, and that's because I want my lining piece to be about 5 inches above this length. So I'll go ahead to measure the length so I'll know how to cut my lining out. I measured the length and what I have is about 28.5. I'll just go ahead now to count 5 inches upwards, and then this is where my lining is going to be. So I'll fold my lining like a triangle, the way we did while we're cutting the lower part of the main piece, and then I'll now mark the radius I got after dividing the waist measurement by 3.14, and then I'll mark that here. So this is the radius I got, and then from this line here now I'll mark the length I want my lining piece to be. I want it to be about 23 inches, and then I think I added 1 inch to that to make it 24, and then I marked all the way to the other end, and then I am going to cut this out. And after I cut it out, I'll go ahead to hem the lower part by 1/2 inch inwards and then 1/2 inch again, and then I'll come show you guys how you can attach it to the waist. So if you have excess, you don't need to bother, just go ahead to pleat it on the waist. So after hemming 1/2 inch inwards all the way till I get to the end, I'll go ahead now to attach it to the waistline. So look carefully to see how I am attaching this. So this is how I placed it. I'll just sew by 1/2 inch all the way till I get to the end. And like I said, if you have excess, you can go ahead to pleat it on the waist. So this is how it looks after attaching. You can see that the raw edge is not showing because the lining is covering it. On this lower part of our main piece, that's on the hem, we are going to be marking where our tulle is going to be. So I'll mark 1.5 inch upwards, and then I'm going to mark 12 inches. So I'll divide 12 by 2 and it's going to give me 6. I'll mark 6, that's in between the 12, and then I am going to go up by 7.5 inches from that point. Okay, then I'm going to create my curve. So just watch carefully to see how I'll do this. So my curve is not going to get all the way down, it's going to be like 1.5 inch above the hemline, and then on this side as well. So I'll repeat the same step. I'll go ahead to mark 12 inches, and then divided by 2 is 6. I'll mark my 6 inches in between, and then go up by 7.5 inches, and then create the curve all the way. And then when I get to this point, I will not reach the hemline, like I said, like about 1.5 inches above the line. And then I'm going to be doing this all the way until I get to the end. If you have not subscribed to this channel, what are you waiting for? Please do well to hit on the subscribe button, and also do not forget to give this video a thumbs up if you find it helpful. And if you have questions, do not forget to drop your questions in the comments. So guys, this is how it looks after I was done. Next I'm going to do now is to attach my tool. And for the tool, I cut about 14 inches, but it was too long, so 10 or 11 inches should be enough. So when working with tool, I usually prefer to use my hands to make tiny pleats instead of running a gathered stitch. So I'm going to be using my hand now to pleat as I sew, just tiny pleats, but do not do too much. Okay, so you do not want this to be too bulky on the lower part, so we're just going to be placing it on the line here, and then I'm going to be pleating as I sew all the way till I get to the end, and then I'll come show you guys how it looks. So guys, this is how it looks after attaching. Like I said, I had cut mine around 14 inches, so it's very long. Even if yours is not as long, if you cut the 10 or 11 inches, you still need to trim it so the lower part is going to be equal But before we do that, I'll attach my zipper, and then I'm going to place this on the mannequin, or you have it worn by the owner of the dress, and then you can now trim it. So I've attached my zipper and I have trimmed mine. So this is how it looks. Okay, so just trim yours so that the lower part will be equal, and then this is how the zipper area looks, as you can see here. And this is the final result of our dress. You can see how beautiful it turned out. Thank you for staying through to the end. Please do not forget to give this video a thumbs up if you found it helpful, and please do not forget to check my other videos as well. Bye, see you in my next one.